It's very important that we take a look at that oneness and realize that that's who we're really doing this with. That individualized presence of spirit within us that knows, that is, and always loves. Now let's just take a breath into that awareness. Feel the sacred within you, acknowledge the sacred in those around you. We are here in this moment to say a collective yes to that next evolution. So let's recap the month briefly. We started week 1 with Reverend Debbie talking about living from intent. There we go. I'm going to move over. Thank you for your patience. We explored the power of intent as the originating place of transformation. Intent is not merely a desire, it is a spiritual commitment. It is a declaration to the universe, this is how I choose to show up. Intent is the soul's compass, guiding us toward divine becoming. Intent is a container that holds the frequency of your next becoming. It clarifies what you are aligning with. The moment you state your intent, the universe begins to conspire with you. That's the law at work. In week 2, Reverend Joanne talked about the invitation. We were invited to face the mirror of our soul. Yes, it can feel intimidating to look deep within, but we find there is not unworthiness or brokenness. We find God. We find truth. The more willing we are to look, the more able we are to have love. This is where transformation deepens, not in bypassing our shadow, but in illuminating it with the light of consciousness. True spiritual courage is not about fixing what is broken, but loving what is true. Intimacy with self is intimacy with the divine, as you'll see here. Then week 3, Reverend Debbie talked about getting real. When we get real, we allow spirit to shine through us, unfiltered. Authenticity is transformation in motion. We stop pretending, we stop pleasing, we stop editing who we are to fit everyone else's mind. We begin to live from our authentic self, the self that was never wounded, never broken, and never separate. Authenticity is where the divinity and humanity meet. In truth, your authentic self is your divine self showing up without pretense. And then week 4, last week, Reverend Joanne talked about heaven can't wait. You know, heaven is not a place. It's a state of awareness. Transformation is living from heaven now, consciously. Heaven is now. Heaven is here. And the more we recognize that, the more we bring it forth in our thoughts, words, and actions. We are the portals through which heaven enters the earthly plane. I like that sentence. We are here to be heavenly conscious. Heaven doesn't wait because spirit doesn't wait. It is always ready to express through us now. And this week, we move on to the power of covenant. It is now our turn to look at the sacred idea of covenant with your God self. You might ask, is making a covenant with your God self like making a divine contract? Well, sort of. There's no small print, no expiration date, and the only thing you have to sacrifice is your excuses. There is good for me and I ought to have, is what Emma Curtis Hopkins said. You know, she was called the teacher of teachers in New Thought, and she deeply understood the power of declaring truth and entering into holy agreement. She declared the world will persist in exhibiting before you what you persist in affirming the world is. That's a powerful statement. She emphasized the deep inner knowing comes from when we align with the spirit within us. Emma didn't just teach theory, she taught practice. She called her students to proclaim their good with unwavering faith, to stand in divine order, to treat for their lives with certainty. A covenant is a spiritual declaration of intent. It is not about getting something from God. It is about revealing God through us. Let me say this clearly. This covenant is not with a God outside of you. It is a covenant with your own divine nature. It's a commitment to live in alignment with your highest self, to say yes to spirit calling within you, to be the transformation you wish to see in the world. Honor the presence of God in all beings, including yourself. When you enter into a covenant with your God self, you activate the law. You set a clear vibration that spirit responds to. It becomes a living agreement between you and the infinite to let more divine pour through your life. It is no longer a wish, it is an agreement. You become the place where God shows up. not because you're striving to be personal, or excuse me, spiritual, but because you're allowing the truth of yourself to be revealed. One of the foundational teachings of Science of Mind is oneness. This is really important. This is one that's really tough for us. We, talking about it here in a minute, we understand it intellectually. We understand this truth, but it's only when our heart fully embraces it that we feel it and feel it at the core of our being that true transformation ignites and radiates into every area of our life. Sometimes these big spiritual truths feel distant when until you recognize you've already had some smaller ones, some smaller experiences of moving from head to heart. Here's a couple examples of it. It's the water one. Yep. Drinking more water is good for you. Very simple. Your head level belief is, yeah, I know I should drink more water. It's healthy. Your action steps are you finally do it, and you feel better. You have more energy and fewer headaches. The life shift, it's not a should anymore. It's a habit because you're experiencing the benefit all the time. Another one, taking a walk helps me clear my mind. Exercise is good for stress. That's your head space. Action steps, well, you try it on a rough day. You feel lighter, you start taking walks because it changes how you feel, not just because you should. The life shift, nature becomes a therapy, not a chore. And another one, a consistent spiritual practice will help you recognize my oneness with spirit. Well, the head level belief is that I and spirit are one. Like I said, we all get that one intellectually. The action steps would be things like meditation, spiritual books, attending services, and maybe most importantly, pausing during each day to feel spirit inside of you. Take a moment just to do that right now. Close your eyes for just a second. And just for a couple seconds, feel that oneness with it. And just like we've talked about before, the more we do something, the more it will generate with us without having to do more. You can open your eyes again, unless you've already fallen asleep. The same intelligence that created the galaxy lives in you. The same love that holds the universe together breathes you. Your soul is not a visitor here. It is an emanation of the infinite. And I just said, when we fully accept our oneness with God, we stop looking outside for validation, for permission, or for identity. Instead, we go within. We recognize that sacred spark. We awaken the divine intention that is always present. Recognizing oneness allows us to live without fear. It dissolves the illusion of separation. It softens judgment. It opens to compassion because we see others as an extension of ourselves. Now, here are 4 key spiritual steps for spiritual transformation. The first one is awareness. Transformation begins with awareness, and we talk about awareness a lot in this teaching. And you can't change what you don't recognize. If you don't recognize it, you can't change it. Rumi says, don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day your pain will become your cure. Ask yourself this, are you resisting change or unconsciously perpetuating old patterns? Willingness. Transformation begins with a willingness to change, to let go of the familiar, and step into the unknown guided by spirit. Willingness opens the door to possibilities. You don't have to know how, you just have to be willing. Or as we sometimes say, you have to be willing to be willing. Surrender. Not passive resignation, but active release. That's the key, active release. Surrender means letting go of control, ego, and resistance. It is saying, not my will, but thy will be done. The next is trust, sometimes called faith. Trust in law. Trust your inner guidance. Trust that life is not against you. Trust that you, as you walk in faith, even when the path is not clear. These key steps are not individually important each other. They're important to be together. They're spiritual attitudes, ways of being that your covenant will be kept alive and dynamic. A spiritual covenant is a way of putting your feet out for your prayers. It anchors your transformation into practice. Now, here are 4 building steps for the covenant practice. First is conscious clarity. Ask yourself, what am I truly committed to being? Not what others expect of me, not what looks good on paper. What is my soul calling me to do? Some examples might be, I commit to being a beacon of peace in times of chaos. I commit to being a conscious communicator, listening with love and speaking with clarity. I commit to being a presence of healing, offering compassion to myself and to others. I commit to being a source of divine creativity, allowing spirit to express itself through my gifts. I commit to being a living embodiment of joy, uplifting others with my being. Clarity opens the door to commitment. The clearer the covenant, the deeper the alignment. Sacred specificity is the next key. Avoid vague intentions like, I want to be better. Just want to be happier. I hope things improve. Those are very, very vague. Spirit has a hard time working with vague things. Be clear and specific. Spirit responds to clarity. Some examples might be, I commit to beginning each day with 10 minutes of silence and gratitude. I commit to saying thank you aloud every time I feel anxious and to shift into appreciation. I commit to replacing self-criticism with self-compassion by writing one encouraging sentence to myself each night before I go to bed. I commit to journaling each evening for 5 minutes on the way I allowed Spirit to lead the day. Specificity helps you track progress. It gives your practice form and rhythm. Now, this also takes daily action as the next step. A covenant is lived daily, not just on Sundays. Ask yourself, how will I honor the agreement today when you get up? You might keep a daily covenant journal. Write affirmations on sticky notes. I think somebody does that here. Share your covenant with a spiritual partner, or maybe even light a candle each morning just to recommit to it. And of course, lastly, there's graceful accountability. This is not about guilt. If you slip, you return in grace. The covenant is your spiritual North Star, not your judge. Revisit your covenant often. Let it evolve as you evolve. Let us reflect the divine growth unfolding within you. Now, there are the templates. We're going to hand these out, if you would. Oh, everybody's got them? Okay. This is just an example of something you can use if you would like to use it in creating a covenant for yourself. And it's pretty simple, so I'll just go through it briefly. And then you have your name there. Align with the divine presence within me. I commit to being the transformation I wish to see in the world. I choose to release, and what that old pattern may be that you want to release, and embody a new truth, and you write that out as a way of life. I know that as I transform, the world is transformed. And so it is at the end of that. Add your own words if you decide to use it. Make it yours. Speak it aloud. Whisper it to the universe. Share it with a trusted friend. Post it where you'll see it daily. Let your covenant be a living document. The one that guides you, your walk, fuels your voice, and anchors your heart. You are the place where heaven enters the world. It's always good to step back and remember that. The world is not changed by force or fear. It is changed by conscious beings who have made the choice to be that light. So I ask you, what world are you creating with your thoughts? What vibration are you anchoring your being with? What transformation are you embodying right now? What truth are you willing to stand for, even when it's hard? Make your life a living covenant. Let every breath, every word, every step say, I remember who I am, I walk with the divine, I live as love. Let that be your gift to the world. Let that be your ministry. Let that be the legacy you leave behind. And remember, you're not alone. We all walk this path together as a loving community, each one with our covenant in source. And now I'll close with a spiritual mind treatment. Everyone just take a breath, settle in, be present in your seat. I recognize that there's one life, one love, one infinite intelligence. That is all there is. It is the source, the substance, and the sustainer of all that exists. It is perfect. It is whole. It is love. It is power. and it is expressing right now as me, as you, and as all of life. I know that this divine presence is not far off, not delayed, not distant. It is as close as my next breath. Closer still, it is the very breath I breathe. It is my source, my nature, and my truth. Today I remember who I am. I remember that I am one with the infinite, one with the presence that created all things. I remember that the transformation is not something I must earn or strive for. It is the natural outcome of my alignment with truth. So I speak this word now in covenant. I am willing to be changed at depth. I am willing to release the beliefs, patterns, and behaviors that no longer suit my highest good. I am willing to embody joy, compassion, peace, and power. I commit to living from my divine center. I choose thoughts that uplift, words that bless, and actions that heal. I remember that I am never separated from that source. I enter into sacred agreement with the God of my being. I align with love. I align with wholeness. I align with divine action. I declare that as I am transformed, so is the world around me. Because what I am, the world is. And what I choose to become blesses all beings. I give thanks for the knowing, for the unfolding, and for the yes. I give thanks for the journey, the practice, for the grace that goes with me. I release this word into the law, knowing that it is already done, and so it is.